Oh, I like this, yeah, I like it.
Figured it out.
I don't mind, it's just,
I'm not-
we keep relying.
Thank you very much. And having reached the hour of 7 o'clock, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Education Committee for Council Rock School District. It is November 30th. And beginning to my left with introductions, please.
Bob Hickey, School Board. Michael Roosevelt, School Board. Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Matt Frederickson, IT Director.
Andrea Mengel, Director of District Communications and the STEAM Program.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Nicole Crawford, Director of Elementary Education.
Good evening, Al Funk, Director of Secondary Education. Ed Tate, School Board.
And Yota Pali, School Board.
And Mary Ann McKee, School Board. While we have a very brief agenda tonight, there are a few items, but they are important ones on district programs that we're really looking forward to hearing updates on. And we welcome all of our special guests who are going to share with us tonight. Mrs. Crawford, may I hand it over to you?
Sure, actually, we're going to have Mrs. Mangle begin tonight with a STEAM update.
There's the agenda, by the way. I just figured out that the down button is the up. But anyway, thank you so much for this STEAM update. Danielle Puglisi, one of our exceptional STEAM specialists from Maureen Welsh, has joined us tonight. Thank you, Danielle, for being here. Our STEAM program, as you may or may not know historically, is something that is different than any other STEAM program, I would say, within the county. I can't speak for the state, but I know that ours is exceptional. Ours is deeply thoughtful and deliberate, and it's populated by exceptionally talented STEAM specialists. Proof of that, thus far, has been in the response of the students. It's been in the engagement, it's been in the activity, it's been in the results that these teachers are seeing. And also, I had a conversation with, if you remember last year, we talked about the 7th and 8th grade, the bridge in there, I had a conversation with the technology and engineering curriculum coordinator. And we're starting to see that little bit of change where there's some carryover. So, moving on ahead, the down button is the next button. Okay, our STEAM program is in 10 elementary schools, all 10 elementary schools. It is offered to grades 1 to 6 only at this point. Kindergarten is unfortunately not included, and that's because if you look at the next bullet, we have 8 bodies, 8 STEAM specialists, but 3 of those are part-time. They are not 1.0. So we occupy a 6.8 positions over 8 people. So that what that looks like is that it's pretty bare bones. These folks, most of them have to travel, but they're able to manage to teach every single kid in grades 1 through 6. The things that they're focusing on now are engineering, digital fabrication, and coding. Engineering being the actual design process, the thinking of it, the problems being presented, how does one go about solving the problem as presented to the student. Digital fabrication, we use something called FabMaker Studio, where we have the devices that are able to cut, fabricate for students, and coding. Coding is important because coding is a skill that students are going to need in the employing world once they get out of compulsory education. So in our 23-24 budget, this is money that we spent last year. What we invested in were Finch robots, Ozobots, and Strawbees. They're all robotic devices. And what's neat about them is kids get instant feedback from them. They involve coding. The Ozobots, for example, are color coding. They actually use different colored markers to make this tiny, cute-looking little robot do twirls or follow a path, things like that. So you can build on it, whereas it's simple for like a very young child to be able to just do an alternating pattern of colors. But as they get more sophisticated and more familiar with the coding, not only can they make their Ozobot do things, but they're able to translate that coding, sequential thinking into the higher order Finch and the Strawbees as well. The FabMaker Studio was a license renewal. That was like a big ticket item, but it's worth it because in each school we have 3 dedicated computers. We have 3, right Danielle? 3 in each classroom in every school in the district. So when you're printing something, you're a child and you're waiting for yours to queue up, a minute is an eternity, so that's why we have 3, and they're able to manage that so far. Microbits and Makey are little electronic robots that they can put together. So that's what we spent our money on this year, and we are definitely getting much for our return that way. Now, where are we going? Because right now we're in that talking about our budget, what would our dream be, what do we need? We really know that in order to align with the STEEL standards that are coming along, that's the 4th bullet, we need to get kids ready to be able to code. And whether that be coding in Python, whether it be coding in Ozobots, no matter what it looks like, we need to get them ready for the job market. And so one of the things that they do in the middle and high school is they do use coding. They do use that engineering, and they certainly use that fabrication practice. So by doing these things in the younger grades, eventually, and I know I said this last year, eventually we're going to start seeing a different kind of STEAM student entering middle and high school. Deepen applications is basically giving them lots and lots of practice. Broaden student experiences is something I think all the STEAM specialists agree on. They would love to be able to have the time to visit the kindergarten classrooms, to collaborate with maybe the classroom teachers when they're teaching science, to be able to push in. As it is, we just don't have enough bodies to do that right now. They also talked about adaptive STEAM, meaning for students who learn differently or who are differently abled. In a 50-minute special, you might not be able to deliver that kind of experience as you would if you had some dedicated time to doing that. So with an extra body or maybe an extra hour, or maybe fill out that 6.8 to a 7.0, or maybe even another full 1.0, it would really be able to stretch that STEAM experience from kindergarten all the way to 6, and add those students that might not otherwise be able to get that deeper, more direct one-on-one STEAM experience. Parity, continuing parity across schools. We're trying our best, they are trying their best to make sure that every kid in every school gets the same experience or has the same opportunity to learn the same thing. Does it look the same in every single school? Absolutely not, and that's the beauty of it. These STEAM specialists make it a point to meet every single week, and they collaborate. They dump everything they've learned into one bucket so they can each pick and choose and share and collaborate and refine and practice. So it's really, because the group is so small at this point, it's really a very, very rich, almost like a nursery for ideas. It's remarkable. And looking ahead, we would love to be able to expand opportunities. One thing I skipped over there, I'm a little gun shy because of a symposium this morning, is artificial intelligence. That's something we can't ignore, but how we would build that in, if you want, you could make the argument that the Ozobots and the robotics are AI, which technically they are. So that's something that we don't want to turn our back on, but broaching it, especially with young children, we have to see exactly where that's going to fit in, because I'm willing to bet that AI is going to start turning up in standards in Pennsylvania eventually. So we don't want to, again, I said this last time, we don't want to be shaped by it, we want to shape it on our own. Now I'm going to ask Danielle to just give, she's got a bunch of little notes I saw. Danielle's boots on the ground. She's the one with those kids every day, so I would like, if you don't mind, to hear what she has to say about our program.
Hi, everybody. Okay. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you on behalf of all the STEAM specialists for investing in our students and giving everyone the opportunity to have STEAM opportunities every week. Every student every week. It's pretty remarkable. It's crazy now to think where we are versus even just a year and a quarter ago. We didn't have this, and now that it feels like it's been around forever. Like I don't think students remember like that. We used to not have that special on that 5th day. It's pretty remarkable to just see the way that it is part of the culture, and it's part of Council Rock, and it's part of what makes Council Rock so great. So thank you so much for being part of its birth. I just want to take a minute to champion my colleagues. They're absolutely amazing. They're extremely passionate, and like Ms. Mangold was saying, they're taking all their time connecting with PLNs, attending conferences, quite frankly, nerding out and sharing what we find with one another. I mean, every day we just like, we'll make a plan, like we said, and then we'll be like, wait a second, you have to see what I found. Who can jump on Zoom? I want to show you something. And we're talking nonstop, and it really is helpful. Just this week, I got a new student from another school, and it was like, remember what you did last week with Mr. Schweier? Like, all right, we're going to build on that here. And it was really like, you don't have to, you know, all the students are really on the same page. It's pretty remarkable what we've been able to build. I guess just to build on looking ahead, like some ideas that we had, if we were to have a bit more, more bodies or more of an investment just with time. You know, eventually I'd like to think about what makes other specials really great. So Ms. Mangold talked about, like, we have adaptive gym, let's look at adaptive STEAM. Some of our students with neurodiversities are the most successful. They're just super impressive. It's incredible to see. You know, it's not surprising that so many engineers also have neurodiversity. So just being able to kind of feed that and fuel that. Thinking about what makes library great, for example, you know, being able to take a book home and sharing what you're passionate about with the family. Maybe we get to the point where we are replenishing our supplies and we have extra stuff that we can say, hey, show your parents how you know how to code this robot. This isn't opportunities that kiddos are just going to be able to have at home. Not everybody has access to, you know, computer programming, even Legos and wooden blocks. Like, it's really remarkable to see kiddos just have time to like tinker and play and figure things out. Even just having like a purposeful space designed for STEAM labs. So thinking about how art rooms have closets with kilns in them. Some of us are pushing in on libraries or working in art rooms. Others are working in traditional classrooms. I'm in a good position right now where I'm in an old computer lab, so there's a lot of tools that I'm able to pull from that not everybody has. So just thinking ahead of how can we build STEAM into the school even physically. Clubs, of course, you mentioned kindergarten, and I think you mentioned it as well, but just having the opportunity to push in, co-teach in the gen ed classroom, really being able to like make those connections, because STEAM should be integrated into the daily curriculum. And it's amazing as a special, we're working with teachers as best we can, but to have a little, you know, that co-planning, co-teaching in the classroom too, you know, you just learned this, now apply it over here, kind of time would also just be amazing. I mean, just kind of going off of what makes Council Rock Special so great. Think about the art show, like, I know we have STEAM night, but like, STEAM show, like, what else can we do to just showcase these kiddos? Because we're giving them these incredible opportunities, and a lot of times it's like, that was amazing when you take a picture of it or a video of it, but now you have to take it apart because other kiddos are coming in 5 minutes later. So, like, what can we do to get these kiddos out into the world and sharing their ideas? So those are just a few ideas of things that we want to flesh out as we move forward. I'm not sure if I really...
You did.
So,
One of the things that
okay.
Danielle touched on, near and dear to my heart, those STEAM after-school clubs. If every school had the chance, or there was the time or the way to do it, having a special, if you go back in time when it was you, having to be there because you're told to go is one thing, but going because you want to be there is very different. And so even if we had it, you know, at 1 or 2 schools throughout the district, I think that would do a couple of things. Not only would it give some kids a more relaxed, more casual approach to STEAM, that's number one. Number two, it's going to legitimize their interest. It's going to tell them, yeah, the stuff that you like, yeah, it is pretty cool. And yeah, you're learning skills that you're going to use in a later life. So it legitimizes it for the community and for the district as well.
If I could just jump in with 2 really quick things. I agree, and like think of that as like music and chorus, or right? Like, so you have that
Yes.
opportunity to just be
Yes.
one of the elite that's showing off, as a representative of your school. And then this is just an aside, I was with my sister-in-law for Thanksgiving. She's a PhD student for something not at all related to computer programming, has to write a code to pull data out of Excel. We really are giving these students skills that they need.
So these are things to consider. We know we have to walk before we run. This program is 10, 11, 12, 13 months old, so it's basically a toddler. It's still coming along. But I just want to assure the board that these STEAM specialists are doing everything in their power to provide these kids with a great program, that we're being very judicious with how our budget is spent. But our plans, as I described last year, it's a moonshot, because in probably a decade, you're going to see that this is the norm. This is not a special. It's probably going to be embedded more throughout the curriculum. So thank you so much. Do you have any questions of either of us? Anything we can-
Not really. A great presentation, first of all. And the thing that I like about it, even with both of you, and I'm sure the rest of them, everybody is involved, is the enthusiasm that you show for what you're doing. Like I said, this is a little foreign to me to a degree. What I would like to see, now, are you only in Welch or
This year, yes.
So you
I'm
don't-
part-time, so I teach 3.5 days at Welch, and that's all Welch is. So last year I was in 3 schools. We're stretched very thin.
What I wanted to ask you was, give me a day in the life.
Okay.
Give me a day in the life of Danielle, of
All right.
what we do here.
Okay, so I teach 6 classes a day, 45 minutes at a time. 4th grade, tomorrow morning, we'll be doing coding with Ozabots. It's their first day with the robot. I'm only spending 2 markers before we jump into block coding with the Chromebooks. They can do so much more. It's like I was explaining to the kiddos, like, back when we were growing up, we had to write all our papers and skip a line in case we had an edit. Like, you can't go back and erase these markers. It's really frustrating when you make a mistake. When you're using block coding, you can just jump in there and fix stuff. If your friend did something cool, they can share it with you and you can change it and make it better. Sorry, so that's worth it. I'm glad, I do feel excited. I'm glad you can feel it as well. 5th grade just started our unit on digital fabrication. So digital fabrication is basically they're building something on a computer and then they get to use a machine to bring it into the real world. So my 5th graders will be designing a paper city. They'll design a building flat, so we're talking in geometry, like net shapes. What does a pizza box look like if you unfold it, right? You see the fold lines, you see where the cut lines are. You have to design that in a program, and then you put a piece of paper through the machine, and it's like a printer and a pair of scissors, like it cuts it. And then they have to assemble it and build it. So it was day 1. We're just trying to log on and let the kiddos click around and play with the tools. After that, I would have 2nd grade. My 2nd graders are starting a unit on invasive species. It is a problem-based learning opportunity, so we're going to talk about invasive species. We're going to talk about where they come from, how they become problematic, what you can do about it. And they will eventually engineer. They're going to be using model magic to design an invasive species and then design a net or some kind of device that that can catch it. One of our STEAM specialists is taking it a step further, and this is the part that I love to see, the cross-curricular. She's working with her art teacher to do stop-motion video, and they're going to take videos of their nets catching them, and that's integrated with art. So we're always, my 6th graders will be fabricating trophies for field day, and they'll vote for them, and whichever one wins for that team will get a couple extra points. So it's like we're trying to find ways, how can we get involved with gym, or if the librarian is already reading this book, where can I pick up? Is there some kind of song that they're working on that my students can code from music onto their robot? We're just trying to think of ways to get out there and be part of everything, which really is what STEAM is. It's an approach that you're just trying to get into everything.
So to build on something that might seem that just kind of flew under the radar. She talked about invasive species. The UN maintains a list of global challenges that are facing humanity, one of which is invasive species. It's like a subset in there. Sustainability is going to be a huge addition to the world of education. Weather, climate understanding, or whatever you want to call it. So
And I think what's so
all of
amazing
those
is like
things.
kiddos already are really charged up about sustainability and about, you know, they want to go out there and like save the world. So it's pretty exciting to get to work with them. And sorry if I kind of like rambled a bit. It's 45-minute blocks, 3 classes in the morning, lunch, 3 classes in the afternoon, 5 minutes in between to kind of, you know, take everything apart. The teacher walks in and it's like, it looks like we didn't do anything. And I'm like, wait, I took pictures. I swear there was stuff everywhere. It was, you know, so it's wild, it's hectic. The day goes by very fast, but it's absolutely incredible.
And I just want to reinforce, going into STEAM classrooms this year versus last year, I mean, there is a confidence too that has grown over the last year too, which is impressive. Everyone's working hard. Most importantly, the students are engaged, they're having fun, and I'm impressed with the projects when I see them that they're working on. They're tough.
Yeah.
They definitely require critical thinking skills, and, you know, just to echo what Ms. Mangold said as well, I'm super proud of everyone that's been involved in this, and, you know, appreciative of the hard work, and the students are certainly benefiting.
Mrs. Hall, you have a question?
Yeah, so one was actually about, so it's the same teacher in each school, just going like on Fridays, or like whatever day, from like first grade to second to third and so on?
Yes, so yeah. And then some of our STEAM specialists most of them are split between 2 schools. So they'll have 3 days at this school, 2 days at that school. Some of them don't teach all the students in one school. Like I said, last year I was in 3 schools as a .8, which was part of the reason that being able to bring on another body and having 3 of us go part-time was really helpful for us to have a little bit less time traveling. We're pulled, you know, you're dividing between 8 instead of 7. But yes, so you see 1 of each grade level every day.
So those kids see the same STEAM teacher each week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it possible for, say, next year, the same teacher to see students that you saw in first grade, just be with them in second grade, and following year in third? So it's called looping. I think I said something to the board about that.
I think schedules for specialists depend on the number of sections that are broken out, depend on the school population. I don't know how the primacy of a specialist schedule as compared to the classroom teachers.
I think like if each STEAM teacher had a dedicated school, you would at least have all the students at your home school. And at least you would see those. So I teach several kiddos that I had last year, again this year, and you're kind of picking up and starting right where you left off. It does make a difference.
Because you get to know their strengths and weaknesses and how you can help them.
Mm-hmm. And they get to know you, and they're more comfortable, they're ready to take risks faster.
And then that allows for that more relaxed, maybe having that adaptive STEAM, maybe pushing into the kindergarten.
Yeah. And so right now it's 45 minutes per week, which is great, but
Well, wait, if you teach STEAM on a Monday, I'm so sorry.
It's not unlike any of our other specials. So we have specialists who are librarians, phys ed teachers, art teachers, and it's based contractually on the number of classes per day that a teacher can teach. And we have multiple specialists at the elementary level particularly that share buildings. So it's not true looping, but you do stay as long as you, as the teacher stay in that building, you'll have the same children the following year as they are promoted to the next grade level.
I mean, I know this is not the exact topic, but I would like us to have a chance to discuss about looping. And I can send that article again if you guys were not able to open it because it showed, like in the countries that it was, so looping is like when if possible, the same teacher stays with the class, say, especially in elementary school. Say you stay with the same your first, second, third grade, even if it's 2 years in a row. And they saw amazing improvements in scores and education just for doing that, nothing else really, because the teacher was able to help the students get to know them and work with them and so on. And my other question is, do you get any special training? Is it an ongoing training for like STEAM specialists?
Training comes in the form of professional development.
Okay.
Some of the funds that we set aside in our budget last year included being trained on the digital fab maker. They needed to learn how to do that. But what we have found is that it's not, since we don't have a program per se, they're training one another on the uses of the devices that they're using. And so much time is spent collaborating. They have spent this year they will spend 2 full days as a group together, just bringing together ideas, pulling ideas, mixing and matching and seeing what fits. So for where we are in our STEAM program now, they are truly becoming specialists in Council Rock's STEAM program.
And we're also really trying to work together to kind of like be a diverse team where we each do have an expertise. So like I'm an OSABA certified educator. I can share what I do with my team. We've got somebody who's remarkable with Finches, which do incorporate AI as well. She shares everything with our team, and that's why we do spend a lot of time together, because we're teaching each other as we go as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Roosevelt.
I think this is great. It's nice to see that the STEAM program has gotten a lot of attention and a lot of enthusiasm. I believe that that's fantastic to get a kid engaged and maintain their attention, is to impart your enthusiasm on something. And if you lose them, which you can do if you're, being boring, I guess is the wrong word, but you're going to lose their attention. So it's extremely hard, I think, to be a teacher and to meet new students every year, to get that enthusiasm and to keep them focused on something. So it's wonderful to see so many of you doing that and the STEAM program working. It's also, I think, nice to see that you're pushing it. There's other districts that have tried STEAM that's after a couple of years it goes dry. So this is nice to see that you're constantly pushing the boundary and maintaining currency with the technology to develop that critical thinking, because that's really the ultimate element here, the building block of education, if you will, of having a problem, understanding the problem, proposing a solution, refining it until it works, and then trying to fix it and do it again, and just running it through over and over again. And so the fact that the STEAM program at Council Rock is doing that with things that initially may represent themselves as toys, right? But to help that enthusiasm and to encourage that critical thinking is wonderful. That's exactly what I was hoping to see. So that's nice to hear. But my question is, at what point do we have any actual data to support how impactful the STEAM program is upon our students, their education, and their educational development? Because that would be nice to say.
So we have wrestled with that, because Danielle will tell you, I start at the beginning of the year, okay, what are students learning and how do we know they're learning it? So we went back and forth and back and forth. And your comment and your question are kind of tied together. One of the things that makes it work here in Council Rock is the latitude that the STEAM specialists have in designing this program. Yes, it's new, but there's so much of an element of themselves invested in their delivery and their instruction that that's what keeps it fresh. So if you do it one week and think, I lost it, let me try it this way. So that's like a natural energy. One of the STEAM specialists, her comment about assessing it was, if you assess it, you're going to kill it. And we disagree with that. So we've been going back and forth, how are we going to do this? So the way we settled our differences, we kind of met in the middle. I agreed that, okay, no assessment in the first half of the year, so first 2 marking periods. And when I say assessment, I mean a traditional rubric, check marks, some way of determining, did the child demonstrate this, that, and the other thing. However, by the end of this year, working with Tammy actually, and one of our newer STEAM specialists came from a charter school in Philadelphia, so she's got more experience in terms of how it looks to be assessed in STEAM. We're going to try and build that in there. So that's one of our goals, definitely by the end of the year. So we can at least see through data what's the change. Even if it's just a slight little change, we still want to record that so we can measure year from year. But yeah, that has been an interesting, it's a really rich conversation because there are equal reasons, like how do you look at a piece of art and say, yeah, what you and I see is very different. So it's hard to grade it or assess it, but there are some things that are demonstrable and can be measured. And that's what our goal is by the end of the 4th marking period this year. Is to be able to give you that update and say, okay, so here's the assessment we designed, and here's how we applied it, and this is the results that we got.
I think like what we're really hoping to see as well is like the success of the program is that we're hiring more computer science teachers at the high school level in a couple of years because we have more students choosing, STEAM electives, things like that as well. But we have people standing up giving a speech at some kind of an engineering summit that say, thanks to my STEAM teacher, just saying I hope to see that there's going to be a cultural shift as well down the line, but I know that we need to quantify it. It's very, very hard to judge creativity, the 4 C's, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Mr. Amy?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it kind of encompasses everything else. And this question is probably more directed at you, Andrea. Like, who develops the curriculum? Like, where did the curriculum come from? Who's developing the lesson plans and all that things? And as Mike says, okay, great, this is year 1, and where do we go with the lesson planning and the curriculum in years 2, and as we progress through the grades, just so we don't get stale, or, is there certain benchmarks that a 2nd grader needs to reach, and then you build on that, and then there'll be another benchmark at 3rd and 4th, up until 12th grade. So like, since this is new, like, where did the curriculum?
So we are making our own. We could very easily have gone out and bought Engineering is Elementary, which is a complete soup to nuts package. It's got the assessments in it. It's got the kit in it. You just replenish your kit each year. And it is open up a book, teacher, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. And it could have been that pedantic. Boom, right down the line. We purposefully chose not to do that because of the exact reason Mr. Roosevelt pointed out. Those things, by the time you get a kid in 3rd grade, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, here comes the kit, just like FOSS kits in science. You see that thing in the hallway, oh my goodness, kids kind of like brace themselves for it. So what we did last year was free range. Let's see what hits, let's see what kids like. And then you have to remember how this program started. There was no budget. We didn't have a budget code, so we were borrowing from science, borrowing from art, borrowing supplies, raiding closets for, the paper cutters. So we really couldn't even purchase a curriculum if we wanted to. So we really had to make do with what we had. And that was a lot of the anxiety that Nicole referred to, because these are classroom teachers. These are people that are so used to, having things available that suddenly didn't. Nonetheless, they managed to make it work and have it succeed. So when we got to this year, we looked at all the stuff we did last year and said, what do we need to buy? Like that digital fabrication, that's really helpful. Is that a curriculum? Not really. It's an application that's using computers, so it's not really a book, an assessment, but we're using it for instruction. So we have now STEELS standards, which are in grade 6 up. And that's science, technology, engineering, and environmental literacy.
And sustainability.
and
as well.
sustainability. So if you're seeing sustainability already in those higher order standards, you know they're going to trickle down. They're not there yet. So Pennsylvania started like with the 6 and up because they feel they're giving more weight and value to courses taught to those students because they know that that's going to go into the middle school and eventually into the high school. Eventually, the elementary is going to catch up with that. And so what we're trying to do now is picking out standards that match what we're doing and build the curriculum around that. This way, we can pick broad enough standards where we can switch out the activity, depending on the grade, depending on the program that's being used. So you may have, let me think of the standard, something about students being able to apply block coding in solving a problem. It's going to look different in first grade, it's going to look different in sixth, but they're all doing it. And that's how Council Rocks varies. So that's a goal for us, with the help of Tammy, to get maybe by the end of this year, if not maybe over the summer, to say, okay, we've done it for a couple years. What do we want to stick with? What do we want to try? There's a lot out there that we haven't even begun to try.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that as a where's the program or what are we buying? I
Oh,
mean,
right,
like
right.
Mike said, there's got to be a goal. What are we trying to hit? How you get to that goal is individualistic as much as the teachers do their own thing and they collaborate with each other saying, hey, this works, this doesn't work. Since it is so new, I don't know, like, have we set those, like you said, right now we don't, but at some point in time we have, all right, this is the standard we want to hit for these kids to measure against. How you get there, I don't want to say I don't care, you know, as long as you're effective and the classes are enjoyable, the kids want to be there. But at some point in time, as much as we have to be able to have some kind of standards and then be able to reach those standards at the end to justify it all, as opposed to this is nice and a lot of fun.
Mhm. I just wanted to comment on the other question about how do we make sure it's not stale. And I think the first couple of years here, we really do need to teach these kiddos this new language. Their engineering, their fabricating, and their coding is nothing like what we did in elementary school, right? So once they know that language, we'll be able to give them a problem that's not about robots at all. They'll just use them to solve it. So I think and as we teach those students these foundational skills, think of it with like reading kind of, if this is, you know, kindergarten, first, second grade, where we're giving them the building blocks, by the time we hit years 3, 4, 5, and beyond, they're using all the tools that they've learned, and everything in that room is just a tool for them to meet a new goal. So they won't have to learn FabMaker Studio. They'll be designing a parachute, and they want to put a little guy in it and be like, oh, I can just quick fabricate a guy really quick and then throw him in there, you know, using it more like a pair of scissors. But I think in order to get them there, we really need to hit these foundational tools, skills for now, and then it won't be stale because you will also have teachers that have been doing it for a long time, just learning the next and best practices, and then applying everything that we already know, that the students already know, and putting it in the context, hopefully, what I would like to see is of their general education classroom as well, integrating it with everything. Like I said, we want to be everywhere, so.
To be clear, though, we did last year go through and pull out the essential questions from Pennsylvania. So, for example, grade 1, demonstrate essential skills of the engineer design process. Okay, that's an essential question. Grade 2, demonstrate essential skills of the engineer design process. Actually, it's the same for grades 3. But analyze how things work. These are some of the standards in there. Identify why a product or system is not working properly. Demonstrate how simple technologies are often combined to form more complex systems. So we've already gone through, we've called them, and what we need to do now is plug in what we're doing into these standards. So we have an idea of what our targets are. So we're not just freestyling, like on the back of a horse, you know? Big lasso, woo, that was fun, let's do it again. So we have our constraints, and this document is just something that we refer back to, but eventually it will be formed into like a formal curriculum. In case we all walk out and a whole new group of people come in, or we have new teachers to the program, what's going to be their roadmap? So that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
create.
great start. I mean, great start. Like I said, see how it improves over the course of years, you know?
And Mr. Hidalgo?
No, I was just going to say, everything's so fast-moving as well. If we waited until we had everything in place to get off the ground, I don't think we ever would have taken off, right? So I think we just had to jump in where we were. And so far, so good, but we're definitely still working, yes.
Okay. Thank you. This is really exciting. I mean, we're spending a lot of time on this. I remember last year we spent a lot of time on this. This is a new special. I'm really excited. Andrew, thank you. I can see the passion in what she's doing here. Danielle, I've known you since I came to the school district. I'm happy to see you doing this even and contributing on a part-time basis. That's good that you can do that. Come back full-time when you can. But my things are, I guess, it's a fifth special. So just exposing the children to the STEAM, the coding, the fabrication of robots, that's automatic success right there, because you will spark interest, just like music sparks interest, just like art, and people to really just go in those directions. We're going to now have more engineers and fabricators and coders going into it. So there's one way to measure, as you'll see, as you said, is we need more like computer science teachers at the high school. But and it really sparked when you said neurodiversity. It's a new word for me, but that's interesting that you can do that, because I think music is another way you can fit in that. And of course, we just focused on computers and coding, pretty much robots and coding, but there's so much more to be done. I think you're doing great, and I love that you're creating your own curriculum. I think that's great, and you're doing it on a shoestring budget, so they say. Okay, so I'm going to get off of that and say, awesome, we're doing a good job. FTEs, so when we talk about another fifth special, I'd like to just, I don't have to do it now, but how does that compare to the FTEs for all the other specials, for the 4 others, plus math specialists and reading specialists? And we get all those at the elementary level. That's where we have to, obviously, if we get one in every school, that might be over in some case, but that would be ideal. So I know we're all competing for this and for the FTEs, and it'd be great to fully staff and make things easy for the students and the teachers to administer. So other than that, is the STEAM at 6.8 because that's comparable to other specials?
Yeah, it's all predicated on the number of students and the number of classes a teacher is permitted to teach per day contractually. So the same is true whether it's a music teacher, an art teacher, a phys ed teacher.
So they're all about 6.87, whatever.
The library will be.
Library teaches kindergarten.
Library teaches
Music
kindergarten.
Kindergarten and chorus.
Okay, but per student, we're pretty much, we could go higher though with contracting, it's the same. So how do we go above it? Just by adding, just add to it, right?
How do we go?
How do we go above the, you said, how does it work?
I was just going to add, from a scheduling standpoint, we have at the elementary level kind of a master scheduler on our team who looks at all the specials and helps to make sure that we are streamlining the process and maximizing schedules and doing what's best for students. I can echo what Mrs. Mangold already spoke to. We would love to see in the future some more support for STEAM specialists for that team, because they are spread very thin across the 10 elementary schools. But we can speak to that at a later date.
Okay.
But we appreciate you bringing that up, and that will align with some other staffing discussions that we'll have later in the year.
I was just going to say, and for what it's worth, if we were to include things like kindergarten or adaptive, that would also change the amount. So it kind of all goes hand in hand.
That's great.
I think part of the reason, yes, so it's a constraint that we wouldn't be able to do some of that stuff without additional people, because we're sort of maxed out with the amount of classes we can teach.
One more thing would be just the rooms in each school. Some rooms, I've seen dedicated rooms. So did you say you push in at library sometimes?
Last year I was teaching at Wrightstown, and I taught 2 days, yeah. 2 days in the art room. Well, it was 1 day in the art room, 1 day in the library, and 1 day push in, and then we eventually kind of, during one of my units, swapped with music, and she pushed in, and I had the art room.
You had a tool belt too, you didn't
I
mention
did
that.
have a tool belt. Really, I'm used to not having a desk. I needed like a couple things right at my, I had a nice carpet.
It was great.
I think that was it, just looking, I'd like to look at the rooms, look at the FTEs, and see how we can make that work for you guys better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tate?
Thanks, Mary. This is marvelous. Thanks for such a good presentation. Clearly, this is a home run. Thank you. I would encourage you to be bold in your ask this year in terms of budget. And I'm wondering, just briefly, where would that go if we were able to provide additional funding?
We would build a STEAM school. I'm kidding. And no, the reason when you meet with the county, the STEAM, the IU operates a group of, when all the STEAM programmers from around the county come together, and New Hope Soberry, they invest inordinate amount of money in stuff in their building. They actually have like a wing set aside, and they've got all kinds of cutters and devices and technology, and I can't help but think to myself, okay, what are we doing that's different? And I think, truly, I think it would be in the people.
Okay.
Not so much we can make do with a trip out back. That is a STEAM lesson right there.
Yeah.
And we talked about nature being the least expensive, biggest play box, sandbox in the world. So I think it would be, if we had to make a choice, speaking on behalf of these specialists, I think it would be in people.
That's great.
And the ability to reach more.
Yeah, time. I totally agree.
Well, you're probably hearing a lot of support around the board for this program. So, like I said,
Well,
I would encourage you to be bold.
Don't forget also, it was your foresight that allowed it to happen. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to punctuate one other thing related to the staffing piece. Because they are maxed out in terms of the amount of classes that they can teach with the 6.8 currently, imagine, again, building upon what was already discussed this evening about being able to broaden, taking their areas of expertise and having more time built in to collaborate with a general education teacher, special education teacher, pushing in, so to speak, in the classroom, and really expanding. So it's not just an isolated 45 minutes a week that a student receives this kind of experience, but we can help spread their area of expertise across the building to the other teachers and staff. That's what I would see as a vision moving forward. I think that's a really important piece, so they can generalize those skills in different areas, during the day.
Oh, I can recall sort of the precursor of STEAM was TIMS, and teaching integrated math and science.
And then
I
STEM,
love that concept.
STEM was, and then now they're stream. It's funny because I look back and I was on the committee here in Council Rock maybe about 6 years ago.
When I met you.
And I looked at the plans that are still, housed somewhere, and I thought, wow, how, I don't want to say narrow, but they were really very constrained, and we just kind of blew apart the model and kind of happened into the way that it has crept up. And a lot of that has to do with, again, you're allowing it to be that way, and combined with the talent and the need for the kids. So it's just like, a perfect storm
Great.
of things that are happening. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Pelley?
So, you mentioned the IU. I know they've been working on that for a while. They have the famous Fab Labs.
Oh, the Fab Labs, the visit, yeah.
And so on. So do you try to talk to them or other schools in Bucks County to figure out, people who have started before, how they do it, what they do well, what they didn't like, things that you could...
Well, we visited other school districts. For instance, we went to Pennsbury early last year to see their program. And again, we could copy, we could bring in, we could buy, and we could build a frame, but this is so unique to us. And it's reflective of the values of this district that, believe me, we borrow liberally what we can. And as far as the IU does a great job. For instance, here's a good example. That Fab Lab, when that comes to a school, that's not through the STEAM special. That's through the homeroom teacher, the classroom teacher. So they're not only getting the enrichment in the STEAM special, but they get to spend an hour, I don't know, maybe once a year, maybe an hour or two in the Fab Lab. Interestingly, the things that the Fab Lab used to bring to Holland Elementary are exactly the things that I applied for craft grants and received. Because when the Fab Lab would bring it, road test it, and I thought, as a classroom teacher, I thought, oh my God, these kids are going nuts over this. That was my craft grant. And so I would get the craft grant, and sure enough, bingo, you would light up all these little minds.
Yeah, the
So-
Fab Lab will have to come up with new
Yeah.
things to do, because our kiddos are gonna be like, yeah, we are not.
Yeah, exactly. So we're outpacing, and I think that's just a natural thing. We're already outpacing the Fab Lab. The IU, however, they have the benefit of statewide contacts. So the thing, when you go there, when you look at the building that they've got there, it's just, the furniture. Can you imagine having those octagonal
nice.
tables? Wouldn't you know, it would be great. So,
So in that sense, you talked about the assessment. Can we learn from others? Because I'm sure they've done assessments. Find out, we don't have to reinvent everything. So if we can use something that
absolutely,
has been used before and is working.
exactly.
So my hopefully the last question. Do we have any plans to take it into like secondary education? Because it's up to 6th grade, right? So what about middle school or high school?
They have the technology and engineering. They already have that. You met Kevin last year. He was here with us.
Right.
Kevin and I spent a lot of time with the STEAM specialists and the technology, which goes all the way up to high school, to see where we could give a bridge for these kids. And we decided that, you know what, it's going to be a natural thing. So that when this year's 7th graders are the first group that wholly had a STEAM special. So I asked Kevin, have you seen a difference? Do kids know more than last year's 7th graders? And he said, yeah. So next year, again, that incoming group of 7th graders, we're going to start to see, these are just different students now. They've been exposed to something different.
And is it a requirement for everybody?
I believe so, right?
Well, there's elective requirements, so they can fulfill some of those requirements through their electives. We definitely have great landing spots for future STEAM students at the secondary level, whether it's honors robotics, advanced placement, computer science. We're going to hear a little bit about our gifted program in 12th grade.
Yeah, but you know what? It's great for the students, but I think it's something that every student should benefit. You don't have to be gifted in order to be able to get a class like that. And you can adjust the level because you cannot ignore like a part of the population who may not be able to qualify for like a class like that. So it would be nice to be able to offer to everybody according to where the level that they are. And you mentioned the STEELS standard.
Yes.
Is that part? How do we?
That is grade 6 and up.
Okay. How do we assess those?
Oh, Tammy, can you help out with that? Tammy would have a better handle on that one
To
than
kind of
me.
answer your question for the STEEL standards, the way they changed it is looking at your physical sciences is kind of narrowing it down and really expanding on your engineering and design. So, like for example, with physics, instead of just having physics class, a lot of the problem solving that goes with it is now incorporated in standards. So when the students are now taking the courses, all those standards have been updated to have problem solving using the different skills within the variety of courses, going into like sustainability. So they're trying to, I don't say move away from the physical sciences. So for example, biology is the Keystone examination that's given. In 2025, it's going to be updated to be reflective more of the ecology and the sustainability standards. When they move into their other courses, then those updated standards for design, the best way to see it is kind of the problems that they're giving the kids to solve. The district I came from, we had a purchase program. It was, trying to remember, the engineering project by design or something. It's a national known thing. So the kids would take level courses. When we did our articulation of our standards for the steel standards, a lot of those problem-solving pieces and the infusion of like the physics principles into solving problems, it's ratcheting everything up to a different level. So it's not just coming into a classroom and learning your facts of your content, that problem-solving project-based learning of what to do with it is more across the board. What I could do is kind of pull some things together for you. So like it's Pennsylvania and their standards are very set for what they want our economic development to be. So the two big things are career acquisition, about the careers in building our workforce development. The other part is science and technology. So they put a lot of money into grants and development things because that's what the state wants our economic development to be. So engineering right now is the forefront of everything with the development. The steel standards are a whole new structure. From if you go online to the SAS, it usually will have like your content, it will have your, it goes kind of across with your grades. It's a very old looking thing that's been around forever. The steel standards have everything put together. They have career applications put in there. They have skills, the soft skills that they want students to learn. They have the problems. So it's a really great, I'd be happy to do like a presentation for you. They're very strong standards. But again, it's moving into engineering and design and problem solving, not just, okay, we're in physics, we're rolling our marble down to see what acceleration, rate, velocity, and things. It's, okay, what are we doing to improve? You know, here's the problem. How are we using velocity to solve the problem, not just the final velocity?
So a good metaphor would be three-dimensional. The steel standards add dimension to science, technology, engineering, math, you name it, whatever is in that basket. It's three-dimensional. We learned one-dimensional. You would go to physics, you would go to chemistry, and you had to memorize the periodic table. Never mind what happened when you put one, element number 99 with element number 1, what did you get? Or how do you solve a problem using that? So that's where that three-dimensional problem solving comes in. We need to raise students that are going to solve the problems that humanity is facing. So,
It's very exciting.
good stuff.
Yeah, nice.
All right, I just want to take a minute to add my thanks and congratulations. It's very exciting to see what you're doing with this, and I'm sure the response from the kids has been phenomenal. And I love the fact that this is homegrown.
Yeah.
I've never needed convincing that the best talent is right here at Castle Rock. The depth of experience and the commitment to our kids. When I hear how tightly scheduled you are, and yet you'll make the time to collaborate with your peers and to work on a lesson and to revamp a lesson. That's very much appreciated, and in large measure, that's where our success comes from. So I say thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much.
So moving on.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so moving right along, I'm very excited about our next agenda item. First, I just want to welcome back Tammy Gary, our Supervisor of Curriculum and Instruction. Welcome back Mrs. Rose Burkhead, who is our District ELA Coordinator. Does it feel like it's been many months since you were here last? It's good to be back. And I know you're really excited to share this evening. We also have 4 teachers joining us. We have Mrs. Patty Morrison, and we also have Courtney Pollock, who are 2nd grade teachers at Rolling Hills Elementary School. And they're here because they represent teachers who teach both Reading Horizons and Wonders. And then we also have Jenna Morrell, and we have Carrie McGovern, and they are fourth grade teachers, actually a fourth grade teaching team from Sulphine Elementary. So a really important part of our presentation this evening is certainly to balance providing an update to the board and the community about these two programs and our experiences thus far, but also for you to hear the practical perspective from the teachers, what's working well, how they see the programs right now in terms of their experiences, and answer questions that you may have this evening. So we're going to start with Rose.
Hi, thank you for having us back, and I'm excited to give you an update on English Language Arts from K to 5 and the changes that we've put in place. We just want to thank you so much for purchasing all of the materials and the professional development. So far, it's been a great change. It's been a heavy lift, but we're doing the best we can, and we're just excited to be back. So I wanted to start just with our visual of Scarborough's Reading Grove. If you remember back in February, I shared this with you before, Pennsylvania is really moving towards structured literacy, and that's the purpose for a lot of the changes that we're putting into place. So on the Grove, there's many strands that really just get woven together, and we have our language comprehension at the top and our word recognition at the bottom. All of those strands, as you weave them together and there's practice, you become increasingly strategic and increasingly automatic with your reading, which really winds so tight and you just become a very skilled reader. So that, I just love that visual. I think that helps so much with the why of what we're doing in our classrooms. It's a lot of explicit systematic instruction, direct instruction with students, looking at what they're doing in the classroom, reflecting on the data that we're collecting and making changes to ensure that we're doing a great job. Last year, there was some legislation passed about structured literacy, and there were some components that we need to put into place for professional development and applied practice. These are really the highlights. Effectively teaching the literacy skills, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. They're the big five, the 5 pillars. We're doing that through both programs, the Reading Horizons and the Wonders. We're differentiating our instruction for students. We're looking at students who are advanced and enriching their opportunities for learning. We're looking at our students who are struggling. How can we better reach them? What are we doing to help them along? We are identifying and teaching students with dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities with using appropriate scientific research and brain-based multisensory intervention methods and strategies. That's really through Reading Horizons. You will see if you go in any classroom that's doing Reading Horizons, it is very much hands-on, systematic, explicit, and it's all research-based. So we are very proud of the work that we're doing there. We are implementing high-quality instructional materials in all of our grade levels, and it's really going well. And then the last one that I really want to touch on is universal screeners. We've been doing universal screeners for years. We have expanded K to 6 using DIBELS. We have a new system that we're using this year where all of the data is tracked through the computer. So when we're giving the assessment, it's actually given, the kids see a paper, the teacher has a screen, and it's all collected and analyzed in there. So that's been a huge time saver and a great way to reflect on what we're doing so far. So that's just my part, and I think we're going to Mrs. Crawford.
Professional development. So this is a critical component to the success of any newly implemented program, and we're really proud of the work that's being done to make sure that our teachers are as supported as they can be as they work through the implementation process. So starting with Reading Horizons, all teachers have been trained in Reading Horizons, and I have the components up there that would include, of course, the general scope and sequence, the technology integration, the instructional practices, that multisensory piece, and of course the materials that they're using. But I think it's really important, particularly with Reading Horizons, to talk about an instructional coaching model that they implement into their training. So just this week, in fact, they started this where we had 5 schools in Council Rock who did not pilot Reading Horizons last year that will be receiving this instructional coaching, which means they send someone from Reading Horizons to the district, they model Reading Horizons lessons for the teachers, and then they have a debriefing session. So that's a really great way, again, to give those teachers the support that they need as they are adjusting to a new program. And as we spoke about last February, it's been over a decade since the elementary teachers have gone through a new ELA program. So I know that this is well received, as much support as they can get. I know that they appreciate. So I've had an opportunity to not only see Reading Horizons, the training that's taken place with teachers, but to go in and actually speak with teachers and hear their reflections. So more on that in a bit. Then we have Wonders. Again, all teachers have been trained in Wonders, and that includes the instructional routines, the scope and sequence, and generally the technology and the review of materials, very similar. What I do want to highlight with Wonders is that on-demand training, they have a great digital platform that's available that our teachers can speak to in a little bit, which is very helpful. That's a good resource for people to reference when there are questions. I think it's important to reinforce and to highlight that, with any new program, as you're implementing it, there will be obstacles that arise and there will be problems that come up. And so I do want to commend the teachers, the literacy specialists, everyone that you see here, that, we're problem solving when some of those needs do arise. But I do want to share that this professional development piece has been very strong and, again, well received by the teachers who have been a part of it. Before I advance to the next slide, as I shared earlier, I think it's really critical to hear directly from those in the field that are doing the work on the ground level. So I don't know if a couple of our teachers wanted to share, and just, if you don't mind, remind everyone your grade level and the particular program that you're working with currently. Related to just professional development.
Like an example. Patty Morrison, I'm at Rolling Hills, 2nd grade, and Courtney is also in 2nd grade with me. We started piloting Reading Horizons last year, but it wasn't for the full year, and we were super excited about it, and the growth that we saw in our children was amazing, as reflected in all the assessments that were given. By the end of the year, we had all of our kids meeting benchmark, with the exception of a couple that had IEPs, and the super exciting part was when they were tested again at the beginning of 3rd grade, they retained those skills. So that means they really got them. So this year, we started right away, obviously, with a program that's now online. So Reading Horizons has an online version that we're implementing, and it's just as amazing. I mean, you were mentioning the on-demand training for Wonders too. Reading Horizons, now that it's all online, so we're using a digital tool as like the teacher manual, and which can also project what the children need to see. And before we teach the lesson, there's actually a little video before each single lesson that it's a quick, like 2-minute maybe, but it gives feedback, and that's usually, that's so helpful.
Yeah, and I would add that video, because structured literacy is new and different, it's a lot of unlearning how we used to teach and relearning. So we're learning things like blends and digraphs, and sometimes you need a refresher. So that real-time coaching is, hey, you're teaching blends today. A blend is, and it tells you right then and there. So you're ready to go. When that lesson comes up, you're ready to teach it. You have that confidence building.
Which is another professional development.
Right, it's more in professional development. And I did bring some books that I'll just pass down if you want to take a look. This is our Reading Horizons.
So the children love it. It's very structured, and the routine is the same every day, which might sound a little monotonous, but it's not. They love it. They know the routine. They're up, they're moving, they're down, they're writing on their dry erase, they're responding, and we say words. It's very much it's a well-oiled machine now. If you'd ever like to come see it, you're welcome. And Mark said that would be okay too.
Please come in.
Come see it. It's very hard to describe.
It's hard to describe the excitement.
The excitement for marking words. So what it is now, and we just had parent conferences, and then parents are like, I have no idea what's going on, but my child is coming home and they're marking these words and they know how to read them. So it's all about, like I said, I could stay here for a couple more hours if you wanted to learn all about that. But there's a lot of excitement. We're excited, and
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of point out, like with the professional development, we had somebody from Reading Horizons come in yesterday, and she went through a whole lesson with another second grade teacher. We kind of let her do it because she didn't pilot it last year, so the Reading Horizon trainer came in and taught the lesson in her class, and we were able to just kind of see like little things that either we forgot to do, or she did a different game, or she did it a different way. So it allows us to kind of learn from her, the expert, you know, if you want to call her that, and then we could take it back to our classrooms and do it with our kids. So the professional development, I think, is extremely important. Plus, she's always available to answer our questions like online, or if we email her. The other great thing is that the program itself, if we give them suggestions, or they're always taking our ideas, and they're always tweaking the program. They're even like, as soon as you log in, like little highlights come up that say like, check out what we've just added, or check out this new thing. And it's because we have spoken up, you know, as teachers, or, you know, different grade levels have given their ideas. To kind of go on what Patty was saying, you really need to come in and see these kids, because they are learning almost like a code, like speaking of coding, like they're breaking the code of reading, and they're realizing like that it's not foreign to them anymore, and they go home and they're confident, and they realize like, oh, this is why I read the word this way, or this is why I spell it this way. I have a little boy in my room right now who we taught phonetic skill 4, which you don't really need to know what that is, but they're learning like why something is a long vowel. So we walk out, and I'm walking into special, and he leans over and he goes, I am just so excited that I learned why we read it that way. And I said, and I like honestly got chills, because I thought like, yeah, like this is a child who, he's like uber smart at math, but he struggles with reading. And he came in like not really being able to read at all, and now like tremendous growth. I mean, talk about the dibbles. Like we already have been doing progress monitoring, and he's off the charts, like just on the things that we've taught him for the past couple of months. And he really like, the excitement in him is just, it's really in all the kids, but they love it. And they love like you said, the routine, and being able to share like their knowledge with, if we do different games where they're sharing their knowledge with the other kids. And
there's a lot of conversation too, which I know is a big push in education right now. Also a lot of conversation and the why. Why are we doing this? Why does TH say, why does it say blue? And when does it do that? And our second graders could answer that question.
Right. It's forcing them to communicate like the rules in reading. It's not just memorizing anymore. We're not just, you know, it used to be like you would throw 5 sight words up there, and you would jump the word, and you would dance the word, and then they would go home and they still didn't know why that word was spelled the way that it was spelled. Now we're really cracking the code on why we say with the way that we say it. And so then it's mapping it in their brain in a whole different way than we've ever mapped it before. It's never, it was always just memorizing. Now it's like, there's so many different things that we're doing so that it's sticking in their brain and really helping them become better readers.
So Pat, I was just going to say, just to reinforce what you're sharing from the instructional practices standpoint, what Patty and Courtney are doing with that classroom experience, the core 4, that review, explicit instructions, guided dictation, transfer. It's amazing to see this in real time when you are in the classroom, and you can see that the students, how they respond to that repetitive approach to teaching. And if you remember last year, I believe our first grade teachers actually tried to have our board directors doing some of the multisensory pieces to the lessons, and that was fun. But you see that and how they respond to being engaged in the direct instruction. It's really amazing. With Wonders, again, you have that whole class instruction, but you're working, within the whole group and also small group instruction as well. And again, we talked about the online platform. And I do want to hear from our fourth grade teachers in a minute, but I want to go back to the professional development piece one more time and just echo the fact that they will, especially Reading Horizons, our experience has been such that whatever we need, they provide. So a great example of this was last spring. Rose Burkhead and I worked together with Title I, as you know, with federal programming, and we wanted to hold a Title I parent engagement night where parents could learn more about Reading Horizons. And it took no time at all. Rose, you called one of the coaches, she came, and it was an outstanding evening where we were able to provide some really good information, record the training and the professional development that, is happening in the district to share with parents. So those that couldn't attend were able to see that at another time. But that's just a small example of really whatever we need, they customize their professional development and support to meet the needs of the district. So once again, I'm going to pause, just looking at this instructional experience. Since we heard a little bit more about Reading Horizons, can we shift over to our fourth grade team, and you can speak to Wonders.
Sure. All right. Really quick, as a parent of a first grader in Newtown, my daughter comes home every day talking about Reading Horizons and teaches me whatever she learned that day, so first grader approved. Speaking of whole class instruction with Wonders, that entails usually our reading anthology, which is that hardcover textbook, and our reading writing companion. That allows us to read with a pencil every day, so we're finding text evidence right in the text. They're able to write in it. We circle, we highlight, we box, we square. We do that during shared reads, rereads, and then during the integration of ideas. We do a lot of scaffolded instruction with opportunities. We do as a class, and then the kids, they do. And it allows for us to have collaborative learning as well with the students working together. The stories in Wonders are very engaging, they're original, and we have so many different genres. To quote our trainer from Wonders, it moves at a pretty perky pace. So we are able to cover vocab, spelling, phonics, grammar, reading, and writing during our daily ELA block every day.
And for, I'm Jenna Morale, I'm the special education teacher in fourth grade at Seoul Finestone Elementary School, so Carrie and I co-teach together each day. So I'm going to talk a little bit about strategic small group instruction. Small group instruction allows teachers to deliver targeted, differentiated instruction to meet the individual needs of all of the students. Small groups are formed based on student instructional needs. So sometimes we'll pull a strategy group or we'll pull a skill group, and the groups are formed for guided reading based on the students' reading levels. This actually expands into writing as well, but we are really able to deliver targeted specific instruction following our whole group instruction to truly hone in on the individual needs of all of our students. And that's really for enrichment and also for remediation.
And then switching to the online platform of Wonders, it really does personalize the learning opportunities. It is so easy to use as a teacher standpoint, and it lesson plans basically for us, where it automatically plugs in all the lessons, but we do have the ability to modify and rearrange however it best fits the needs of our classroom and our students. The teacher's lesson plans, then once we personalize that, it is then automatically synced to the student's dashboard, so when they log on to their account, the games and activities are already tailored and aligned to whatever skills and strategies we're focusing on for the week. So it's so nice to be able to say, okay, we're working on fluency and accuracy, and then they're able to go and then apply those skills on their dashboard automatically. The assessments and supplemental materials that are online can all be assigned and also checked for us. It's easy to assign the differentiated tasks to individual students. So we were able to group our students online above on level approaching, and then our English language learners. And then when we go to assign the different tasks or assessments, it automatically differentiates them based on wherever we assign them to. And it's fluid, so it really fluctuates with their needs.
You can edit them too.
Yes.
Change them based on, like, second grade right now, they can't read as well as fourth graders, and the text can be somewhat challenging, so we went in and edited some of the assessments so that it was a little more second grade appropriate, at that moment.
Can I add something about Reading Horizons as we're talking? So after our Reading Horizons lesson, there is an online component, so they go back and they have this grade appropriate, it's really cute, we call it like a jungle trail, it's like a little animal that hops around, but each day there's a quick skill check on the lesson that we just taught. And it's awesome because it gives us, within a few minutes, we get automatic feedback where it says, these kids need enrichment, these need practice, and these need teacher practice. So we're able to, they all know where to go, what to do, but we're able to pull the ones that we need to really hone in on immediately after the lesson.
There's a few more things.
I'm sorry.
No, I can just go on and on about that.
I know.
My kids are in Central Buck, so I'm seeing it from the parent side, and I absolutely love it. And my fourth grader now is a struggling reader in first grade, and by the end of third grade was where he needed to be, and it's also, so it's great. So to the editing and the learning aids that you had mentioned before, when our students are taking online assessments, we have the ability to access learning aids and implement them for them on the assessments. So if a student answers a question incorrectly the first time, they're provided with immediate feedback. So it will let them know if they answered the question correctly or incorrectly. These are on assessments that we're taking. Some are a cold read, where they're being assessed on a skill with a text that they've never seen before. Others will be a text that we have read through and discussed in class as an assessment. So the correct or incorrect answer will show them, and then they are given a second attempt. And then on that second attempt, we will let them know if the answer was correct or incorrect, and both times it provides an explanation for why. So these texts are very difficult. They are at a very high level, but there are so many resources that really are within the program that allow us to help all of the children access these higher level texts. So that was a feature that we loved and used with everyone in the first marking period, and now we're maybe keeping it to more of our struggling readers and identifying students moving forward. But that's a feature we really like. Another feature is an interactive online writer's notebook. So students have the ability to publish, revise, and to draft, publish, and revise and edit all in one place on their dashboard, which is amazing from a management standpoint for us, and I think a learning standpoint from them. Everything is just in one centralized location. We have the ability to then go in and check on each student every step of the way and really see, okay, we need to pull these kids and work on this skill. Let's pull this child and work with them on that. So it really helps them, and it also helps us. And then another feature that we really like is just an online application where we can do running records to track students' progress and fluency. And it just allows us to continue to monitor them, and everything is right in one place. So overall, we're very happy, and we've received tremendous support, and we're in a very good place with it. So thank you. Awesome.
Great, and at this time, Candy's going to speak to next steps.
As you see, for English language arts, grades 1 and 2 are very important for building readers. By grade 3, it's really changing from learning how to read to using reading to learn. So this program is, and the state changing it to structured literacy is using a lot of really strong skills. So as we started the program, it's now the next steps of how are we continuing to take this forward. So we've all talked about the professional development needs. They just don't stop in year one. They continue. Your first year of doing something, you always experience that implementation dip as a change in practice. And there are a lot of different things that the company has been in, offering instructional coaching. We're going to be continuing that into next year. So that support is there with the teachers. And interestingly, when they started the program last year as a pilot, working with the company, there was an agreement to do a research study on the students that did the pilot last year. And tomorrow, actually, the company is coming and sharing that data to see how that first year pilot group did. As part of the pilot, you received a lot of free training, free materials. So we're very interested to see what the results are tomorrow, and of course we'll share those out with everyone. A big part of this is using research-based evidence for student learning. So we're continuing using data to measure the effectiveness of instruction. I spoke to you previously about the use of DIBELS with our MTSS process. So that DIBELS data is used by the teachers to see who needs support, how we're providing support, again, to get everybody to those benchmarks of reading and understanding. We're continuing the work in determining the use of curriculum-based assessments. We're going to be broaching report card issues and looking at how we are using our data to show and express student learning. So within the program and using kind of the external data sources with DIBELS as well. We're continuing the work in merging the Reading Horizons and the Wonders program in grades 1 and 2. So building how to read and then also looking at developing the reading skills. And the last thing that we're working on is exploring opportunities for more instructional time, because time is golden, as you've seen with everything. How do we create more time? And we're starting conversations to integrate social studies with the LA. Social studies has many broad-based. They have the 4 different standards, like history, economics, civics and government. They get them on geography. So a lot of those skills are very open so that you could use the reading support. So looking at how we could implement the 2 with the standards to offer more time. And that's everybody's role.
Right. And a lot of the units and wonders are a science or social studies based central question. So there's just that natural tie-in over.
And a lot of nonfiction reading.
Lots of nonfiction.
So just to piggyback on that, we are trying really hard to integrate social studies with language arts over in 2nd grade. Right now, in social studies, we're focusing on U.S. symbols, and it just so happens that our story this week is about all eagles and eaglets, but mostly about eagles. So we tied in like the U.S. symbol of the bald eagle and how we're going to write an expository piece. We're reading an expository piece, and we're going to write an expository piece in social studies on the bald eagle, and we've heard of our young author book, so we're working it out.
And we were reading about endangered species, which we heard about in STEAM, so it all comes together.
Our first unit in Wonders was changing landscapes, erosion, and deposition. Our first science unit is soils, rocks, and landforms, so it's very integrated.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from anybody? No? Mr. Roosevelt? Yes?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. The reviews of having the boots on the ground, as you put it, point of view, I think is really helpful and strong, as well as seeing the actual material passed around. This is something that I think I asked for, and it would have been really helpful if we had this back prior to February to review, to look, to flip through this, to look and to get an idea of what's going on. So thank you for bringing them today, but for other things, other changes or whatever, I think it'd be really important to see that for enough of us to spend some time looking at these prior to making decisions. That being said, I want to get an idea, is their assessment of these programs and how they weave together consistent with all of the schools?
the merging of Reading Horizons and Wonders.
Right,
One, two.
all the ones that have done that. And,
So that is why, when we started with Reading Horizons and Wonders, our focus for the first half of the year is just on Reading Horizons. We received Wonders training for 1 and 2 in November, so it's optional to dabble in that material until basically the start of the third quarter, and then we're going to have both programs going at the same time. Just because the learning curve for the foundational literacy is so important and crucial that we wanted to make sure we have that established and in place, and then the Wonders is going to be what's coming next.
right, because you mentioned that there's five schools that had this.
Yes.
So,
No.
Pilot.
Pilot.
All 10 have it right now.
Right.
Yes.
There was 5 initially that piloted, and all 10 have it. But I'm asking, is their views here representative, consistent with all of the other reading teachers that have this material either during pilot or currently? Are they finding the same sort of?
By and large, yes, but I would definitely say that there are some people who are struggling with trying to make the 2 programs work, and that's a lot of open lines of communication. I try to make myself very available, going into classrooms, helping out where there's issues. That's why we're exploring a little bit of the social studies or science time to make sure there's enough time. Because what I'm hearing, if there's complaints, it's there's not enough time to fit this all in. How are we going to do it? So I want to be really responsive to that. The other complaint that I hear is, I just don't feel like I have enough professional development. So those are the 2 things that I think we've heard a lot, and I certainly want to address that and help people along. I will say, with the coaching that happened this week with Reading Horizons, our coach came, she was in a lot of classrooms, and it was a great validation point for teachers who are just starting to use this program since August, and they were like, I'm doing that. I've got that. So it was not only was it a great teaching moment for them, but it was a great validation of, I really am doing this right. So our teachers just need that constant validation and feedback that they can do this. So everyone, I would say, that I've encountered with the programs is very positive, but there are a couple, negative hurdles that we need to get over, and, we're tackling that.
That's great, because I think that sometimes the criticisms, the complaints, the struggles are just as important as hearing the triumphs and the successes. And I'm happy to hear that you're, eliciting them, and as well as finding solutions to solve these problems, because they've encountered the same problems and overcome them. So using them to, or maybe they've encountered the same problems and are or different ones. So I think this is really important to get that, and getting professional development is good too. I did want to notice one interesting thing here. I think it was, which one is this?
That's Horizons.
Horizons. When we think of the vowels, we think A, E, I, O, U, right? And they've changed the order.
You know what?
Yes.
You know
Let's
what?
hear it.
Yes. Because when you say the vowel sound, when you put the E and the I together, it sounds too similar. And so when you say them,
Okay.
you have to, that way it separates the E and the I
Okay.
when you're saying them.
Because somewhere else in the book, they had them in the order that we're all familiar with.
That's, I think, for the,
kinesthetic.
I think that's for the kinesthetic cues, we have cues for
Yeah. Yeah, and it was neat seeing the, I think you call it the sound wall, right? Where there's instruction on the mouth and all of that. So that's really great. And I wanted to understand how you build in the other multi-sensories, but you just kind of demonstrated a little bit of it. But
So
how does that work?
we were just talking before we started that you have to teach them the short vowel and the long vowel. So one of the things they show you is that what does the word short start with? It starts with an S. So you have them write the letter S. And then you have them erase everything but the bottom curve of the S, and that's called a brev. So then when they're marking the short vowel, we just say brev, but they remember we erase the S, and we just have that little S left. And then with long, it was an L, and then we erased the top part, and so it's macron. So we have them do like breath, macron. So you can see like even the struggling learners, like they might not be able to say like short, long, or breath, macron, but they're kind of like short, right, short, or they're doing their arm motion. So like just that multi-sensory or tackling like all the different parts of the brain, like eventually it will all come together and it will be automatic for them. But if they're at least knowing like, okay, I know that I'm thinking of that letter S, I'm erasing, okay, short, get breath, like, and they might not even know like the word breath or macron, but they still know it's short sound, long sound, you know, as long as it's connected.
Yeah, and I think similar to STEAM, right? This is the same idea where a lot of people are getting enthusiastic about this and bringing different elements to the kids, and the kids are reacting. And I think that that's really helpful to keep them engaged and to help them to learn. And involving different motions and sounds seems to be working. And that's a great enthusiasm on it. So
I mean, they are, like, and we said, like, we would absolutely love for you to come in.
I have to see it.
Right.
Reading Horizons is, right, Rose?
You have to see it.
You have to come in and
Isn't
see
there
it.
standing part of it?
There's
Standing,
we do like,
standing, moving.
like you do something where you pick up their marker, they put it down, it's like, I do a little chant, like markers down, or hands up, so their hands are up, and then they pull the word into their brain, and then they give it back to you, and like, there were some teachers in the beginning that were like, why are we doing this, why are we doing this? But again, there's research out there that says, like, if you're moving your body, and we're sucking it into our brain, and it's going in. You know, there's research out there that if you're standing up as opposed to sitting down, you're learning more, the blood is moving better. So there's, I mean, all these things that they just kind of latch onto. And even my kids will be like, you didn't say it. You didn't say markers down, hands out. So they're really into it. I mean, they're into it for so many reasons. Like, one, because it's silly and fun, but two, also because they realize, like, oh, I'm learning to read.
Right. Yeah.
I had one student just the other day, and there was a word they didn't know in one of the decodables, and I said, mark it. So we were just starting to get deeper into marking. So they marked the word, and which is another long story, but they marked the word, and she put it all together, and she read it. And so realizing that
you have the strategy.
She has the strategies now, and so the automaticity will come, and they won't always be drawing and marking, you know, or like making sense math, like
It's the best approach to reading.
It really is.
Research is out there. Having a first and third grader who have gone through the program from the beginning, sitting with them and reading, and then coming to a word that they don't know, to stop and look at the word and truly decode it and break it down, or say, this is phonetic skill 5, and read the word, that is the outcome that you want. That is truly teaching them the skills that they need to be a successful reader. That's the data right there. More so than, the dibbles are amazing, yes, it tracks, it's all of it, but when you can sit with a child and they can come to a word that they don't know and break it down and read it and apply those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I don't mean to be to piggyback with like the professional development, with the woman that came yesterday, like they're so open to hearing everything that we're saying, and you know, in years to come, like tweaking things or adding this or fixing this, you know, that it's just so important to have that open line of communication with them also. So that's really cool.
I know Mrs. Polly, you have a question.
So that's great for the ones that start with kindergarten and then move on. What if can someone say start in 3rd grade and then do they have to go back and read all the skills that are required to get to that? How does that work? I mean, who's the right?
So I will say, if a student's coming in 3rd grade, they're not getting Reading Horizons in their core program. But one of the awesome features of our online component of Wonders is adaptive learning. So it just is this foundational literacy program that the kids can do. It's all tailored to what they need. So that would be the first place to go. We also have literacy specialists who are pulling kids who, you know, we see that their DIBELs, our literacy specialists, if they are identified, our special education teachers, or instructional assistants.
So it's only kindergarten and first grade that's starting like that?
This program is K1, 2.
Okay.
And then the Wonders is 1 through 5.
Okay. So what about students, say, they came from Russia and they're in the classroom? What happens then?
That's a great question.
I can answer that one.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a student this year, and he just moved to the country in August, I think.
Second grade?
Second grade, zero English. So we're, you know, he's working with the ELL teacher also, but what I've done is I found a way to kind of move him back in Reading Horizons, because right now we're working on letters and sounds. He'll try to do what we're doing, but it's just, he'll be like, but so just moving him back is what, I mean, I was able to do that, to move him back. So when I meet one-on-one with him every day, and we're just working through things in addition to his ELL teacher and support.
And there are supports for students who are English language learners built into the programs.
Yeah.
They have level of readers that are specified to them, so there are different things within the program that help us to meet their needs.
And how often does the ELL teacher come into the class?
For our fourth graders, she comes twice a week for 30 minutes each time.
Is that enough?
For him it is.
Yes.
For him it is.
Yeah,
I can't speak to everyone, but he's getting ready to exit the program, so for him it is. And we share resources and materials with her that she uses when she works with him.
Mine now is, it's like 5 days. So but it's not always the ELL
Somebody
teacher,
comes
she is
every
an
day?
assistant. Sometimes it's push-in, sometimes, and it's not always the ELL teacher. It's the ELL assistant, who's amazing too. So he does, see, but he sounds like he's on the other end of.
Yes.
I actually just wanted to also mention that there are really good embedded materials for those students. I was actually just speaking with Shannon Hubeck, the ELD coordinator, and we are looking to be purchasing some more materials. Particularly that conversation was about Wonders, but how she felt that there are some really great resources embedded in the programs and online. So that's what you also get with these newer programs. They're giving you lots of layers of support embedded, the special education piece, students who speak English as a second language. So I think that's important to highlight as well.
Now, Mr. Hickey.
You make a lot of references, or you've made a few references to your children,
Yes.
but your children are in Central Bucks.
I have a first grader at Newton Elementary,
Oh, wait, whoa.
and I teach fourth grade at Sulphine-Stowe.
Somebody said Central Bucks.
Jenna's.
My children go to Central Bucks.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's just what I'm going to.
Yes.
So you see it from a parental standpoint, so I'm assuming Central Bucks uses the same two
They
programs?
use Reading Horizons, they do not use Wonders. And we actually piloted the program that they use as their core program, and we chose Wonders over it.
So as a parent, you see the value in it, not, you know, from the parent side, just not as a teacher.
I do.
And I don't know which one of you said it, it might even been Ms. Gray or it said it. The thing that impressed me about what somebody said was, when you reassess a child
Yes.
in third grade,
Our class.
She.
they retain it.
Yes.
Yeah, both of our classes. So we both piloted it last year, and then, well, partially, which is also, yeah. So then, when we reassessed them in September with the DIBELs and looked at all their data, they all retained everything that they learned last year.
From second grade to third.
From first to second.
From first to second.
No,
Okay.
from second to third.
No, you're right,
Second to third, right.
Well,
They were-
the one thing for me is that they retained it, that they get that foundation, because if they don't have the foundation, where are they going to go from there, especially with, you know,
Right.
the language because it translates into everything else that you do. And I guess the other thing that will be the proof of the pudding as that we go forward is hopefully it'll be reflected in improved reading scores as we see this program migrate for a few years.
I, with my full 100% heart, feel like we're definitely on the right track.
Well,
And it's only going to get better. We saw it with the bridges too.
What was pretty funny, because if I'm correct, the person who gave the presentation last year was a second grade teacher from Goodnow.
Danielle Lanzi was here.
First grade from Goodnow, yes, our Reading Horizons is first grade from Goodnow.
Okay. And she was also very excited about the
Remember her
program.
doing all that, yeah.
This is 4 different people than the person who sat there last year.
And it gets better every year. We saw it with Bridges too. When we have, so students who are in first grade now or kindergarten now that are getting it for the first time will have it all the way when they come up to us. Maybe a child who's in second or third grade right now. Yes, we'll fill in the gaps for them for another year, give them whatever targeted intervention they need to get them that instruction. But the children who are getting it from the ground up right now, that's when we're really going to see that momentum. And we saw it with Bridges. Now we're beyond, everyone who's come to us in 4th grade has had it, and it just gets better each year.
So if I have a free day where I'm off and I have nothing to do, I'm going to Rolling Hill second grade.
9:30 every day.
What? It's 9:30? Okay.
Well, if I could just jump in, I was fortunate enough to go to Goodnow and see it piloted, Reading Horizons. And from an instructional standpoint, it's sophisticated. I mean, the research that has gone into that program is sophisticated and deep, and very interesting to me to see marking words and seeing so much, activity around it. And ultimately, the high interest and engagement of the kids. And there was an English language learner in that class, fully included, struggled in ways that, but still accommodated and included. It was very impressive, so great job, Karen. I took the floor there.
Anyone? You're welcome. You'll see wonders with us, but come on in.
Just remember, you'll see wonders.
Quickly, so would it be fair, I'm interested in comparison of the cohorts, and it sounds like 3rd grade or 4th grade would be one, where we could compare the 3rd grade this year with the 3rd grade from a couple of years ago, to look at how, have we done this? Where we look at what the quantitative metrics of comparison are to demonstrate that this is working, and it's going to get better. That would be nice in the chart, to look at that quantitative comparison of how this is better. I mean, we hear the qualitative aspects, but seeing the quantitative would be really important also. That's sort of my finding.
And we'll have that tomorrow. That's part of the research study from Reading Horizons, and that was part of the free training. We got free training, free materials for 35 sections. So they took our data, they analyzed it, and they're sharing out results tomorrow.
Great.
Comment.
Yes, Mr.
I just
Hidalgo.
comment that, the visuals are great on the wonders, so I think it's easy to, keeps the kids engaged, I'm sure. And I have to come see what Horizons is all about. Thank you.
You guys come together.
We don't talk outside.
Did Joe come from? I don't know.
Then you can have lunch.
Oh, wow. Okay, now we're talking.
Recess.
All right.
Recess.
All right, before we have to get you on the payroll here, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate you hearing from you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Tammy.
Great night. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Rose. Thanks, Tammy.
I have to sign it. Anyone who can sign it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a good
See you,
night.
Carrie.
Fairly changed, but it's not like it.
anytime we have.
Yeah.
Well, wait, how, we're not switching that for next one.
Just
No, I'm saying like they don't state the mandate.
So under the gifted.
Okay, gifted education, everybody. So I just want to comment on the level of enthusiasm at 8:50 on a Thursday evening for teaching and learning.
Yes.
My elementary colleagues are bringing, with STEAM and with Reading Horizons and Wonders Garden Press. We're going to switch gears to gifted education, which is governed by Chapter 16 of the PA Code. So as you know, school districts are mandated to identify students with exceptionalities in the area of giftedness and then program appropriately for those students. And the board was good enough to recognize that maybe the way that we were delivering some of our gifted programs was a little bit archaic, so to speak, especially at the secondary level. We tended to deliver that programming through our social studies humanities, so it was limited to one discipline. So we have since expanded that the program, and we're seeing some fruitful results this year. So we asked Dr. Casey Black, who is our supervisor of student services, specializing in the gifted education curriculum, to talk to us a little bit about the expansion of our gifted programming for our students at all 3 levels. Dr. Black.
Thank you. One of the things that I supervise is gifted programming, and that actually is by choice. I have always had a passion for gifted education in Pennsylvania, and so whenever I took this position, I requested that this be part of my role. So the enthusiasm didn't stop when those people left the room. I really feel strongly, and I've, like you, felt strongly for a while that gifted needed to be out of just social studies. It always seemed odd to me since my first day in the district. So it was always something that I wanted to move, but it was difficult. We tried actually previously several times. We piloted it in LA. We did different things, and it never worked. But I think we finally found something that is working and working in a really, really great way, and I'm excited to tell you about it. Gifted if we think back to when we did the gifted review back in 2013, we actually tried to get a little bit of other subjects in our gifted instruction. But we were really limited by the social studies curriculum. Some of the things that we did were, trying to use the stock market game for things, so that's social studies, but we're bringing in math and trying to kind of bring in other subject matter. But now that we have science, we're able to really kind of go all in with kind of looking at all different subjects in our gifted instruction. What I have up here for you is what it looks like in elementary school, where kids are receiving gifted instruction for the social studies and science block. Currently, we are working in parallel with the way that regular education is being delivered, and so they're doing it in 6 to 8 week kind of rotations, where for 6 to 8 weeks they teach social studies, and then 6 to 8 weeks they teach science. And so our gifted instructors have been mimicking that too. And the way that they're working is they're compacting the curriculum so that they try to teach the same standards in a shorter amount of time, and then they dive into more enrichment activities with the kids for the remainder of that 6 to 8 week block. And then they switch to the alternative subject area. Some of the things that they've been able to do with that are teaching things like density, planetary science, graphing, molecules. And if you just kind of think about any of those topics, they also lend themselves really well to math, and so we're kind of incorporating all types of things with that too. But what I'm really excited about is next fall, our plan is to try to integrate the curriculum a little bit more at the elementary level so that they're not doing these 6 to 8 week blocks. We want to have one kind of continuous curriculum. So teaching the same things, but actually not stopping at the end of 6 to 8 weeks to kind of switch to a different subject. And being able to show a little bit more of those connections between science and social studies, which is going to be really neat, and be able to kind of dive into why we're learning these things. So some of those examples are of how we're connecting everything in the grades is electromagnetic force was discovered in the Great Pyramid. So we're using like the science piece of electromagnetics, and then talking about ancient civilizations as well. Another one would be how weather affects landforms and the migration of different civilizations. So we've been working really hard on trying to kind of integrate the curriculum and thinking about lessons that bridge those subject areas, and then that will go into effect in the fall of next year. Okay, and then what I have for you up here is high school, where the difference has been even greater, thinking about the difference in gifted education at the secondary level. So gifted education previously was offered only in social studies. So for each grade level, there was one course of social studies that was offered for gifted instruction. Now we have 2 courses at each grade level, but they're in 2 courses in each of the 4 core subject areas. So a choice over the course of your high school career, a choice of 8 gifted courses that you're able to take. This just went into effect this fall, so this is all brand new. We had trained the teachers quite a bit, the secondary teachers, because this was a shift for them. It wasn't as much of a shift for the elementary teachers because they had been teaching gifted students all along. They just had to learn the science curriculum and how we were going to incorporate that. But the secondary level teachers, they hadn't taught gifted students before. So a lot of the PD that we were doing with them is teaching them what is a mentally gifted student. And our focus on that was teaching them that gifted instruction needs to be different, not more. So we were talking to them about how a lot of times when you have a gifted student in the classroom, you might say, oh, you finished those 20 problems really fast. I'm going to give you 10 more because that will fill the rest of the time. And so we were talking a lot about how their instruction needs to dive deeper into the content and not lose them by just giving them more work. I've been visiting some of the secondary gifted courses, and the feedback that I'm getting from the students is really overwhelmingly positive. It's more positive than I thought it was even going to be. The students have really liked being able to kind of have this opportunity to take courses in things that really interest them. You know, we've seen an increase in our students taking gifted courses at the high school level and not opting out of gifted, because maybe in the past the gifted student wasn't interested in social studies, and maybe they're more of a science student or a math student or an English student, then that's their passion, and so they've been able to kind of explore those classes. Another thing that I noticed, which I don't know that I was even expecting or predicting, is that they're really happy that they have alternatives to AP classes. And I think that was something that we wrestled with when we were even building the schedule and figuring out what classes to have gifted in, is how this will look related to our AP courses. But the feedback from the students is that if there is an AP alternative, it's nice that they have this option if they want to have their learning be deeper but in a different way. Some kids have said to me that they don't appreciate having to be driven by a test. That they want to be able to explore what they love and want to learn and do it in their own way, in a very deep way, in the classroom. There was one student that thanked me because he didn't have to be bored sitting in class anymore. In the math classes I was in, what I took away from that is that the students seem to really love the challenge problems, number one, and number two, the ability to understand the application of the math problems. So they're not just doing the math problems to learn that equation and spit it back out, but they're understanding more deeply what could this apply to outside of the classroom. And then one of the things that I was in English 11 class, I was talking with them, they were creating their own websites to use the power of language to generate change as they were inspired by a group of books that they read. So the standard curriculum would be to read a certain set of books and perhaps have a discussion about it. But then they take that a step further by kind of using that to create these websites that are supposed to empower change in their community. So it's, again, taking everything that they're learning to another level and being able to have choice in that too, doing it in a way that kind of follows their passion. So it's been really exciting. Several of the students with whom I've spoken have asked if we will be offering even more subjects for them to take. Physics was one that I got a few times in the gifted world, but it just goes to show you that they're really enjoying these options.
students.
Great, thank you. Yes, Mr. Hidalgo?
From the high school part, does that mean that they could take 2 humanities classes, or I used to call humanities classes, so I can get 8 instead of just the 1?
So yes, there are 2 offerings. In a traditional schedule, there would be 2 offerings, up to 2 offerings per grade. But if the way that your trajectory through schooling works is different in that maybe you're advanced in math, you're ahead, you could take 3 in a year potentially, and then maybe you would only have 1 the following year. So however it works in your course load. But yes, a total of 8 over your 4-year career.
Versus what we used to do, which was 4.
1 per year.
Right, okay, thank you.
And the biggest difference for me is just spreading it out across the 4 core contents, social studies, science, math, and English, as opposed to just social studies. But it should be noted that while students do have that opportunity to enroll in all of these identified courses, they don't have to either.
Anything else on gifted?
I have. So what's the difference between this honors class versus an AP class?
So the AP class, I think, is, well, I don't know that any of these are an AP class. I think we stayed away from that. So that was purposeful. So the AP classes are a different course. So we made sure that these honors classes are the honors version, but with enrichment, but they're not AP classes.
Okay, so the AP class would be like a higher level or like going more into depth?
The advanced placement courses are governed by kind of a third-party entity, College Board. So students have an opportunity to receive college credit if they receive a certain score, threshold score, at the end of the year assessment on the AP examination. But the curriculum and the training for the teachers is kind of governed by College Board for college level advanced placement course.
So why would someone, if they're like really good at something like that, why wouldn't they choose to take the AP class and get college credit and instead of the honors?
Yeah,
Enrichment class?
right. So I think one example of what you're talking about might be English 11. You'll have to make sure that I'm saying this correctly. But so there is honors in English 11, then there's honors study of English 11, which is the gifted course, and then there's AP Lang. So there are those are the 3 options that they now would have. And so taking the gifted course that's actually the one that I wanted to visit because of that. So I did, and I was speaking with them about why they chose the course, and they were saying that it gave them this option of being able to understand the content, but in a way that pursues their interests instead of being governed by, you have to learn all of this particular material that the test requires you to learn. So, but we had the same question as you as far as, are these students going to want this type of course? But it's just they have.
I also just want to note, advanced placement courses are fantastic, but just enrolling in an advanced placement course and even passing that course doesn't guarantee you college credit. It really depends on the college and university as to what credit they would accept, and a lot of that is based on how you do on the assessment. It used to be that you kind of get, it's a 1 to 5 score for the AP, so 3 or above, you kind of felt like you were in the ball game for maybe gaining some college credit. It's getting more competitive. College and universities aren't necessarily giving as much credit as they did previously.
Did you have a question, Mr. Hickey?
A couple, and I think you answered it. What Yoda was saying, you do or don't offer AP and honors for the same students in the same course. Like, I thought you were saying if you were going to take an honors course, the AP course wasn't really available.
It's a different course. So
It's just different.
Course, yeah.
How about I hate to think of this, but a lot of people think of their GPAs and whatnot. What's the weight of the course compared to an AP course?
The AP is still the highest.
So, as the kid's striving to be valedictorian, he's going to want to take that weighted class as opposed to. And then my other question is, what is like how many students are in these classes, ballpark average, or that varies, I guess, by the course?
Well, the max would be 20, but the courses that I've been in have been about 14, 12 to 14, 15 kids per class.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some law that governs the proportionality with, student to teacher ratio. Can't go beyond 20 to 1 in these classes.
Yeah, no, what I'm wondering is if you're not getting the interest in these courses, that you have 5 kids, only 5 kids are interested in taking honors geometry because they all want to take AP geometry because they all want to be number 1 in their class when they graduate, or for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't offer like AP geometry. So it's, our AP offerings they are what they are. I think they have 26 AP offerings at high school level, and then you have your honors. But yet, the curriculum is highly stratified at the high school level. So you do have your academic level, you have your accelerated level, you have your honors level, you have your advanced placement level. And yes, GPA-wise, all those levels have different weights.
And what you were saying, or something that concerned us, are we going to have enough kids in the class? And initially, there was one of the classes, I think it was the 12th grade STEM class at South, that didn't have that many kids. And so initially, we were talking about, are we going to have to bus these kids because does it make sense for us to run a section? But we were able to get eventually more kids signed up, and so it was
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. I have a question. I'm just kind of looking ahead. I know recently there was a completed program review of the gifted program conducted by the IU. When do you think you'll be able to present back to the board about the results of that? Any idea? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was gifted, it's EL.
Yeah.
No wonder I got those looks from you. I apologize.
I can answer that. So we will be getting a report provided to us in February. So at that point, we'll come together, take a look at the recommendations, and be sure to share it out.
Great, thanks for translating for me. Any other questions about gifted? Mr. D.
Hi. I hadn't thought about the idea of kids opting out of gifted in the high school, but that is an option. What portion of the student population is in gifted in elementary school versus high school? Is there, the numbers drop?
significantly, but not, it didn't as much this year, but in the past, it does significantly. And then there was one course at the high school in 12th grade where kids would opt back in to take it because they all wanted to take honors philosophy in 12th grade. But yes, we usually saw quite a few kids, especially as they got into 10th grade. 9th grade, not so much, but by 10th and 11th grade, a lot of kids were opting out. I don't know the numbers, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
I think nationally, and Casey can help me here, nationally 2.5 or 3% of the population qualifies to be exceptional in terms of being gifted. And at the elementary school, historically, we've seen that when the kids, under our old model, the kids would leave the social studies classroom and go to gifted. When they got to the high school level where Al said the classes are stratified, students, to Mr. Hickey's example, would opt out of gifted and take the AP courses to challenge themselves, to bolster their GPA, and to potentially get college credit if they reach the threshold after paying for and taking the AP exam. So the student's still gifted, but it's whether or not they chose to take that route.
Right, okay, thank you.
That's a good question, because we suspect that drop-off won't be as much now that we have expanded our offerings at the high school. I mean, when you look at it and you talk about 2 opportunities per grade level across the 4 content areas, you might not think that's a huge opportunity. However, if you're really looking at a 6-period day, 2 classes of the 6, that's a big jump for us. So we think that the expanded program is a good way to go.
I really like the fact that we offer 26 AP courses. I think that's really commendable. I can see why, we've had a lot of conversation about stress level for high school kids, and I like, it makes sense that a kid might say, I'd rather take an honors course and be able to challenge myself and not have to worry about the AP test. I think that alternative is a good one.
Well, I think what Casey said also, with the 8 offerings over the course of the 4 years, our kids are getting more choice, right? Not just AP versus the gifted program, but, that subject area. They could make choices.
Great.
Mrs. Powley, do you have a question?
So the evaluation for gifted is usually done in 1st grade, right?
We do our universal screening in first grade, but evaluations happen when
But do you test again? Or someone who qualified in first grade, they can go through?
Actually, yeah, it actually has been said by the state that once you qualify for gifted, you are always gifted. So that's how when kids opt out, they don't have to be retested. It used to be that they had to be retested to get back into honors philosophy in 12th grade. But then when the state came out saying, once you're established as mentally gifted, you're always mentally gifted, then we no longer had to do that. And so they could just sign a paper to opt back in.
Yes, Mr. Roosevelt?
You mentioned that the kids in math enjoyed it more because they understood the application for the equation. I'm hoping that that is still happening in our non-gifted math programs as well, because I think what we saw tonight is how much reading has thrown down the gauntlet. And we've seen over year after year, our math, sort of rankings are a lot lower than our reading and comprehension rankings, and they go down as the grades go up. So it would be wonderful to see how we can incorporate some of these lessons from reading into math is sort of my assessment. The other thing is you mentioned that it was difficult to integrate social studies with the science before.
Well, we were teaching science.
Right, okay.
So gifted was only in social studies. And so we had the social studies standards only. And we were trying to get science, math, and ELA lessons in there, but within a framework of teaching social studies only. And so we tried. Economics made it a little bit easier to get math in there, but it wasn't always easy. But now that we have science and social studies standards, it's a lot easier to get math and ELA in there and that whole.
Okay, so that was more a relation of the standards integrating into the course.
Into the curriculum that we're creating, yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you, I just wanted to do that.
Yeah, the math, can I comment on that too? 'Cause the reason that the students were saying that they're understanding the application more is from that challenge work. So they'll do the equation in the classroom, and then they'll do a challenge problem that's more of a real world problem, and it's more application. And so that's when they were really, you can tell kids, oh, you'll use this later, but when they actually see it in action, here's a problem for you, that's where they were saying, now I really understand how this is going to be used in the real world.
Because that's basically the criticism of so many kids going through education, specifically dealing with some sort of math. I mean, invariably, they all come up with it for almost anything. So that's a really important component to get them to grasp. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nothing else? Okay, looks like we're adjourned. Thank you so much.